All right, let's check, see just how alive we are. Anybody watching the recording of this afterwards, you can, as usual, skip ahead between 5 and 10 minutes. All right, it's not showing up. Let's go to the channel directly. This one's going to be shorter, at least I intend it to be. Oh, look, Josh is here already. Mute myself. Edit video. Come on. Go out here. Live. Monetization on. All right. Loaded. Control room. Top chat. Live chat. Dismiss that. All right. That should be everything. And audio is fine, or so it appears. Okay. We will still be using Google Earth. This is not the regular weekly global events stream. This is the USGS released the MCS early stream. Okay, I don't know why you were zoomed in on some specific random building in Iran, no less. Okay. All right, but for anybody who's unfamiliar with it, the USGS, United States Geological Service or Geological Survey, releases annually the MCS or Mineral Commodity Summaries, and they usually release in February, but they released it a day early this year. So if you go to that, you can get it yourself. Click there and it'll download the report, or you can click on the prior to 2024 link here, where you will see PDFs for all of the ones they've released all the way back to 1996, which contains data for back to 1994. So for any of you who were wondering about the various graphs I have on that Google Doc showing our global mine production or output for different mineral resources and stuff, if you were wondering why it only ever goes back to 1994 and stuff, it's because that's as far back as the MCS data goes. Other than that, I have to look elsewhere and try to accumulate actual accurate data for previous years before that. So that's why the graphs typically stop there. Like I said before, I am going to try to extend them back further, but I'm probably going to only be able to get accurate data of the sort for some of the more popular stuff, like, copper and gold and the like. But there's where you can get like all that data for yourself to see. But the USGS compiles a thing of data for, well, let me open a different one. They compile data for the global mine production, mining output rates of the different mineral and metal resources. They're the most thorough source to get it from. So there's 2024, and that will contain data for 2023 and 2022. So we will also need to have the 2023 one open so that we can see back to 2021 to see some of the specifics of before Russia invaded Ukraine, because some mining output levels have changed drastically since then because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the fallout that has had on Russia and Russia's mining production levels because of the sanctions and them getting cut off from a lot of Western equipment, which they kind of relied on. Their specific preference, I believe, for the most part, seems to be Komatsu, which is a Japanese manufacturer of mining equipment, which is a really good choice. They're one of the like top two, you could go with in terms of mining vehicles. Either Caterpillar or Komatsu are like the top two. So that's probably because the Russian like mining industry is, being run by mining engineers as opposed to being run by smooth-brained idiots like the government is. 4, 5, whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't expect too many to show up for this, even though I mean collectively everyone's probably going to be interested in it, but it's a bit early, and also uh it's not a war stream and it doesn't have a catchy title. But as sort of implied by the fact that you can see them here, I already updated the graphs to go up to 2023 to contain last year's data. It looks like I screen capped silver twice, so delete one of the silvers. Okay. Potash. Potatoes. Ignore the KO2. I don't remember what that was for or why I put that there. Because I've been updating these graphs since like 2017, so I don't remember what that was about. Okay, so those are ready, and we will zoom in on and look at some mines around the world. But while I wait to see if anybody else shows up or like says anything other than Josh dabbing, we'll start with a few non like super popular things, and then once I've given everybody their chance, then we'll come in to actual like critical stuff like the precious metals and rare earths and things. So antimony is a lesser known, not very abundant metal that's used in a number of things. Predominantly, still, the main stuff that it gets used in is flame retardant materials. So the stuff that gets woven into firefighting jackets and firefighting equipment, and also is incorporated into the fuselages of airplanes and some furniture. If you make sure you're buying, if you actually look at like the tags and make sure you're getting furniture that has it. Flame retardants keep stuff from burning too quickly, but a beyond the minimum required use of it is actually what's kept the A350 that got hit by another plane in Japan a few weeks back from catching fire as fast as engineers initially thought it would. So antimony, if go all the way down here. Yeah, antimony peaked back in 2007 or 2008 and has been on a bumpy ride down since then and has been having some deep fall offs. One of which, the most recent one, was the abrupt drop down here over the transition to 2022. And that's because one of the prime suppliers is Russia, or rather was Russia. Russia used to supply a larger amount than 4,300 tons a year. But since Russia now is quite restricted for parts and new vehicles and equipment for its mining industry, it's having to pick and choose stuff. And, you know, out of the different things that it mines, it's deciding antimony is one of the things it can dial down on and sort of shelve for the time being in exchange for dedicating what's like mechanical resources and stuff it has available to keeping the platinum mines running and the nickel mines and the diamond mines, aka the ones that earn it the most money. But yeah, antimony is also used. It's also a critical components for both heat vision, thermal imaging, and heat seeking technology for missiles and the like, as well as different LED diodes, different particular colors. So there's a bunch of antimony like in your computer or phone screen right now. Not a bunch, as in like a hugely measurable amount of weight of antimony, but there is antimony in the screen that you're watching this through right now. Bauxite. Bauxite, for those who are unaware, is the primary ore that contains aluminum, from which we extract aluminum. Although that process is not as simple as I just made it sound, and in fact, actually requires a huge electricity expenditure. And aluminum refining out of bauxite ore or out of alumina that we get out of the bauxite ore actually consumes, I think, something like 3% of our total global electricity demand each year is from aluminum refining. But one of the nearest places to the US where we can find some aluminum mines is Jamaica. So just to show you what some of it looks like, that looks like a big one right there. Oh, no, that is a refinery and tailings area. I want the actual mine itself. Where is Okay, there's the refinery and the tailings. Where's the active mining site? Residual lake. Where's the mining site? Okay, where the act and this looks like it no, that used to be one. Uh Jamaica, stop making this difficult. I'll resort to going down to Brazil if I have to. I will resort to Brazil if it comes down to it. All right. Well, there is a fair amount that gets mined in Jamaica, but apparently I forgot where anything and everything is in Jamaica. So instead, we're going to go down to Brazil, and the bauxite mining in Brazil is up around this area. I believe that is tin mining there, whereas the bauxite is more out here. Oh, I should check chat. Never mind, chat's dead. Okay, so I have no need to check chat. Well, I could probably just do this instead. Brazil bauxite mines. There we go. That should work. They're all in Para. Okay, so let's plug that in. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was wrong. Uh, the tin is the one that was outwards elsewhere. This is the bauxite. Can we reset to normal? Yeah, get rid of the tilt. There we go. All right, so for anyone who was unfamiliar with what bauxite or aluminum ore looks like, it looks like a bunch of orange dirt, basically. So this is what it's like, and if you zoom in far enough, if you have like a better subscription to Google Earth, you can see the mining vehicles and everything roaming around. But yeah, bauxite ore looks like a bunch of orange dirt. And in terms of bauxite or aluminum ore production from mines, that is a resource of non-concern. There's more than enough. Also, even if we started burning through all of the bauxite, we could then just start getting it from other things like various types of clay, which is quite an abundant material on the planet, contain a decent enough amount of aluminum, and you know, we only don't extract it from clay because, for one, we use clay as clay to make bricks and the like, and also because getting it out of clay is less economical than bauxite. But this is the trend line graph for aluminum production, and by aluminum, I mean bauxite mine production. So it's quadrupled in global output over the last 20 years or so, especially as we've had the infrastructure booms from many different rising nations, predominantly China, formerly at least, and now India being the main fuel driver. Although it is starting to seemingly plateau or taper off here, which is primarily demand induced. First it stalled because of 2020. You can see that there. And then it still crept up a little bit more, but it is stalling out there because China is, starting to buckle. Their, real estate mega construction Ponzi scheme industry has already contracted by like over a quarter of its size and number of stuff over the last just 2 years, because investors finally figured out that it's essentially a non-entity. And China last year, their economy actually finally contracted for the first natural time, as opposed to, 2020, where everybody's economy contracted because 2020 happened. But China has hit the wall and things have begun, especially with the demographic weight. So it's primarily China's, smashing on the brakes unintentionally. They don't want to, or at least the CCP doesn't want to, but reality is kind of doing it for them. So that's causing a demand taper off, and also uh, construction of like new stuff, at least in a lot of other countries like Japan, South Korea, and a lot of the EU was already kind of like neutral, kind of, flatlined for a decade or two, anyways, because a lot of their populations are either stagnant or in decline as well. But China's the big weight that's kind of cutting it off here. But it should still stay up here because demand will still linger on up here for a little while, primarily because India is still going upwards, and also a few other, like, large population rising nations like Indonesia are still also coming upwards as well. And you would otherwise have a few other like large population ones like Pakistan, but Pakistan is kind of undergoing self-induced implosion at the moment. In fact, their economy, their GDP last year actually shrunk again from like 400 billion down to 360 billion. So yeah, the bauxite output for the global total is has plateaued at about 400 million tons per year, at least for the moment. 6, 5, 7, nah, back down to 5. Mostly quiet group tonight, but I assume usually War and Death draws more commentary. Oh yeah, and Brazil is gonna have continuing like expanding construction of stuff for a little bit, but their population pyramid is also already starting to do stuff. I think I have theirs. Yeah, here's theirs. They went down and out like this and sort of gradually curved in here. But then the last like 5 years or so, they've begun to cut in much more deeply. though thankfully theirs does not look anything like China's or South Korea's does, at least. Okay, let's. Oh, yeah. Here's one that's really noticeable: beryllium. So this is a graph of beryllium production measured only in tons. Beryllium is very rare, and because of its rarity, it is only used in things that truly have to be beryllium. So it is used in a few particular complex electronics applications. Usually, those include a lot of satellite related stuff, which is part of what this huge output here was demand fueled back in the 90s and carrying on from the 80s, because that was the initial wave of a lot of countries launching the first generation of like communication satellites and weather monitoring satellites and military spy satellites. And also this was also incorporating the restock of cruise missile and air-to-air missile industries after the Gulf Wars, and also the interventions in Serbia and stuff. And this was also the time period under which we were building most of the current like F-16s, 18s, and 15s that now exist in the U.S. aircraft fleet, and other nations were building theirs as well. And so it then uh, crashed down for a while, began creeping back upwards as a bit in the aftermath of restocking from Iraq, and then also coming up here as like newer generations of satellites and stuff were being launched, and stayed like that because of the advent and prevalence of electronics, keeping the demand high, uh, prevalence worldwide of like laptops and smartphones and stuff. And then you jump up here with this demand driven production surge here over the last 2 years, which has been primarily because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, as both Russia via cruise missiles and Ukraine via air defense missiles, HIMARS missiles, and now the cruise missiles we've given them as well. They have, between the two of them, they have been expending a lot of those, which has, spiked up beryllium demand. And Russia is having some issues with it because they can only really get it through slash from China. And we have now kind of cordoned off China from being allowed to buy it from us. And we're the predominant global supplier of it. China can still buy some from Brazil, and China mines enough on its own, but or not as much as it would like, at least. Russia's been having supply issues with it because China kind of wants to use it to build up their own cruise missile and other missile systems inventory for their own upcoming adventurous endeavor that they're going to be making. But so, beryllium basically will its production fluctuates almost entirely on demand drive. There is not a lot of it out there, but at the rates at which we use it, we cannot like cause actual physical supply deficit issues with it for quite a while, unless we went into some kind of like absurd CS:GO, World in Conflict, Call of Duty esque type of existence for like multiple decades straight, and we're just like burning through tens of thousands of cruise missiles every year. But so that's the state of beryllium. Anybody? All right, nothing from chat. Bismuth, boron, and cadmium. Chromium. All right, so chromium is one of the key ingredients for various types of steel. In fact, the basic the basic formula for stainless steel before you add or change any of like the percentages to get specifics to get specific types, like for specific types of infrastructure, like underwater stuff, coastal stuff near seawater, sewage handling stuff, or just like general construction stuff. The general formula for the most like basic formula for steel itself is about 98% iron, 1% carbon, 1% manganese. For stainless steel, which is both stronger and tougher and also very resistant to, corrosion from all types of weathering from different elements. The basic formula for stainless steel is about 68 or 70-ish% iron, and then 18% chromium, 10% nickel, and the aforementioned 1% carbon and 1% manganese. So chromium is very critical, and unfortunately, half the world's supply comes from South Africa, which is an issue because South Africa is uh, going places. I won't look through the channel to show it to you, but you can go down through the channel. I have the whole the impending collapse of South Africa video about their situation, so to speak, and their output has been on the decline because South Africa's power grid is gradually collapsing, and you can see here even just these last 2 years their output has continued slipping because their electricity supply is unreliable. And yes, mining operations do keep, giant diesel generators on hand, but those only will have fuel on them for like a number of days, not indefinitely. And also, delivery of stuff within the country has been getting to be an issue because now different criminal like syndicates are just robbing the train the rail network. They're like going into the relay stations and stuff and ripping out the electronics so they can sell the precious metals off the computer boards. So that's messing with like delivery of stuff. But South Africa is responsible for nearly half the world's supply, which is an issue. Kazakhstan is the next one up, and they are working on expanding their mine output. They do have the ability, the capacity, resource wise, to expand it. It's going to take a few years to set up. So the second half of this decade, they should be able to dial themselves up. I would hope to around like 10 million tons a year to compensate for hopefully a not yet collapsed South Africa. It would be nice if you guys could hold on just a little bit longer. But yeah, so chromium, critical primarily for steel production. We go over, yeah, there we are. Chromium production output peaked at 45 million tons per year and has been kind of slipping since then. This is not like a true availability peak. This is mostly South Africa is imploding kind of peak. So if South Africa were completely a functional country and there was nothing wrong with its like power grid or its infrastructure or anything, then global chromium supply would either have kept climbing or at least like stayed up at around 45 million tons a year. So thank you, South Africa. As always, you guys are doing awesome. Copper. All right, time to get into one of the big ones. So, copper, obviously, hopefully, for anyone who somehow is unaware, copper is one of our critical materials. It is, what we make electrical wiring out of. It's also what we make brass with, mixed in with zinc. and a whole bunch of other stuff. We make motors with it, and now, and also, transformers and other electrical infrastructure and piping and other things, and also special paint applications that get painted on the outside of ships so that barnacles don't grow on them. Because if they get covered in barnacles, that interrupts their hydrodynamics, and they have to come into port and be stuck for like several days, not doing their job because they have to sit there and have people spraying and scraping barnacles off them. So big cargo ships and stuff have special copper salt paint on them, a special like copper oxide or copper something that's like toxic to barnacles and keeps them from growing on them, and various other applications of copper. Now copper demand is soaring because of the rush to electrify everything, and also you see this dot here. You can see it from space. This is one of the largest mines on Earth. It is Bingham Canyon. It is an inverted mountain dug into the earth. 5 miles long, 3 miles wide, a mile and a quarter deep, or a mile and a half deep. So it is a multi metal mine. You see each of these things that's wide enough for like a large truck. To give you a idea of scale here, each of these pathways is wide enough for multiple mining haul trucks to drive on. But this mine is predominantly extracting copper, gold, silver, and also some molybdenum along with it. You know, but this is just to give you an idea of what modern mines, whether they be copper mines or elsewise, look like. So there are some haul trucks you can see, and if you're unfamiliar with haul trucks, this is a haul truck. There's an SUV. This is a haul truck. So for you to get an idea of what size these things, these tiny little things are, versus zoom out from them and show you the whole scale of this. So as I was joking with Josh, a while ago, about seeing some people on Twitter talk about how they how they had, or talking about how, from what they said on Twitter, I saw they had no understanding of mining, because they were like, why would anyone want to uh, go to XYZ place because the only jobs there are mining, and who wants to swing a pickaxe all day? So people, this ain't the 1700s. Ain't nobody swinging pickaxes. If you see this, this is a like 100-foot wide by 100-foot long by 80-foot tall giant excavator claw grabber thing that scoops up several hundred tons of ore at once and dumps it into those giant, like 3-story tall haul trucks. So this is what actual mining is now. Nobody's swinging pickaxes, but copper production was sort of plateauing for a bit. Now it is climbing back upwards a bit more because of expanded operations in the southern portion of the Congo, along with Zambia. Some additional expansions here in the U.S., along with some in Canada and a bunch in Australia. Whereas it's going to plateau out and go flat again because of some troublesome countries that have decided, despite wanting the whole green revolution thing, they don't actually want to supply the green revolution. Panama shut down their copper mine there that was responsible for about 1% of the entire global supply. Peru's copper mines keep getting shut down off and on because of environmental protesters. And now Chile's are also starting to get shut down off and on because of environmental protests. And also, the government in Chile is like super green. So for the past two, or actually it's 3 years now, for the past 3 years, they have almost consistently just ignored the mining industry and have only approved one new expansion to one active mining operation, whereas all the others that have, filed the required like paperwork to expand the capacity have not had anything passed yet, and the applications for actual like new mining operations for new copper mines have all been turned down. So Chile, there's actually a consistent pattern of people who want the whole like green energy revolution thing, but immediately then go out of their way to sabotage it. This is actually a pretty consistent thing. And Chile is particularly troublesome because they're responsible for about a quarter of the world's supply. But as you can see, their output is dropping. Just over the last year, it dropped from 5.3 down to 5 million tons of outputted during the year because of the lack of approvals of stuff and also the off and on shutdowns from environmental protests. Did it? Peru managed to make a comeback though. So Peru, at least government wise, Peru is actually like, all go for mining. But their people are a bit of an opposite story. 7 7 randomly jumped up to 10. Nothing from chat. Okay. Diamond, feldspar, fluorspar. Essentially no real supply issues with it. But for those who don't know, fluorspar is a mineral that we grind up and use in the refining process to extract aluminum from alumina, which we get out of bauxite ore. So you grind up the bauxite, get the alumina out of it, out of the slurry mixer mill, and then you take that to these special spider vat things, basically, where you blend that in with a bunch of fluorspar and apply a huge electric current to it. Like each vat, each spider conductor vat thing usually is running 130 megawatts of electricity through it for a single vat, and each of those will refine and produce extract pure aluminum metal. And over the course of like a day, one of those will extract, I think, usually about 1,000 tons. So, and one aluminum refinery will, have like at minimum at least eight of those spider things. So, a singular aluminum refinery will, or smeltery, if you want to call it that, will be running about a gigawatt of electricity demand. Okay. And in terms of fluorspar suppliers, uh, on the global stage, Mexico is the big supplier, along with now Mongolia. They just jumped up from 425 up to 930,000 tons per year. China is the largest producer, but they're also consuming basically all of their own output to fuel their own aluminum demand. So in terms of fluorspar, the largest like global market supplier is Mexico, followed by Mongolia. Gold. The MCS always undercounts gold. They do not include a lot of the output from smaller artisanal mines, a lot of which are in Africa. So I do incorporate those as well. But even incorporating that, gold production globally has hit another plateau, which is likely its actual peak plateau. because unlike this one back here, over the course of which gold prices were consistently really low, this has stalled and hit this even while gold prices have been consistently up around like $2,000 an ounce versus back here when they were like 200 or $300 an ounce. So, despite the overwhelming financial incentive for further production, it's not able to materialize. So, this is likely the actual like limit reaching. And so far, the highest output year for gold was still 2018. So, that was the value peak year potentially, with last year, 2023, seeing something that was really close. I think like 30 tons less or something, but it's plateauing for the moment and will start to turn down likely in the next 10 years or so, but that will depend on a variety of factors. And gold production globally is diverse amongst a variety of countries. Like for decent level producers, you got the U.S., Australia is a big one, Canada and China. Then some mild producers are Indonesia and Kazakhstan. Russia is also a big producer, and they're, like I said, for them, gold is one of the ones that they decided to, like when I was referring to them shelving a lot of their antimony mine production. That's so they can keep, what spare parts and machinery they are able to get a hold of going into maintaining their gold mine output levels and their platinum mine output levels, the ones that, make them the most money. Mexico also is a mild producer, along with Uzbekistan. Helium, not something that is mined, something that is extracted from either natural gas or something that is forcibly uh, pumped or lifted out of actual like helium reservoirs in semi-porous rock. A lot of those particular reservoirs that contain like just helium itself, a lot of those are around the Lake Victoria area that we have found, with the primary majority being on the southern portion, so belonging to Tanzania. And operations are underway to begin setting up some stuff for Tanzania to actually start extracting helium and exporting it. However, it's going to take probably like 5 to 10 years to get that set up. So, helium in the meantime is primarily coming from several countries where it accompanies natural gas as it comes out, along with in the US, also under Kansas and Nebraska, there is also just a large in rock reservoir or occurrence of helium that is also semi extracted on its own, but it also comes along with a bunch of natural gas in the area as well. So the big global suppliers are the US, Algeria, Qatar, Russia, and Iran would be if Iran wasn't down spiraling at the moment. But yeah, so you can see the different output levels here. And Russia could output more, but they have neglected like getting together the wherewithal to actually do it. Uh, Poland, Polska, I forgot also, excuse me, scroll up. Polska also has helium, like independent helium occurrence under some of its like southern area that it also extracts from. But eventually, we should be seeing Tanzania in a number of years pop up onto this list. And helium supply globally is a bit of an issue. It's effectively plateaued for almost 20 years now, even though demand would have otherwise increased. So, demand for it has kind of had to self restrain. which was done by, prices for it going extremely high at different periods of time. And helium actually is critical for a lot of stuff, like a lot of supercooling for, various particle colliders, various supermagnet stuff, not just for far out experiments that people probably think are worthless, even though everything around you that you're using right now came from experimentation and science that you otherwise, if you were alive at the time, would have considered useless. But a lot of that requires helium to keep those things cool, and also a lot of other science requires stuff to be done in like a non-reactive, non-oxygenated environment, which they use helium for to like purge all other gases out because helium is the best for that. Helium is the one that will actually like reliably displace everything else out of the atmosphere in a closed space. So they use helium for that, and also because the helium then doesn't react with anything. It's also critical for welding because they spray some helium along with the welding arc as they're doing it, and the helium displaces the other gases and stuff, so it keeps any reactions from happening along the welding surface, keeps any imperfections from being created, and also it's needed for the manufacturing of computers because the growing of the actual uh, the actual wafers and stuff, the manufacturing of those from silicon, and then the laser lithography of creating the actual lines on them that will become the processors and stuff at all those places in Taiwan and Japan and South Korea and now Malaysia and soon to be Poland and the Czech Republic is where we're building some of the new ones to continue relocating as much of the supply out of Taiwan as possible. Those chambers where that's being done are flooded with helium because helium displaces everything else and reacts with nothing. So, that allows the process to be completely impartial and devoid of, or at least as devoid of any imperfections and flaws as we can make it. But helium supply is a bit of an issue. So, waiting eagerly for us to get that extraction stuff in Tanzania up and going. But also, we are going to have issues overall as we start depleting this availability. But thankfully, we only need to eventually make a certain finite number of processors and computerized devices and well a finite number of stuff. Before then, at some point, hopefully, the amount that we need to consistently make each year will only go downwards. One of the one of the few benefits that will come from the whole demographic collapse, actually, you know, far in mind the whole other stuff that the demographic collapse is going to bring that's going to be wholly negative. But oh, we actually have someone commenting. Uh, ceiling for a ceiling for input costs. Uh, no, as long as the price goes high, which I mean it already is, it keeps flirting with its record high, but instead of like a big upward spike, it's flirting with its record high as like a constant state of its existence now. As long as it's high enough, the industry will spend the money. Like yeah, it's just sticking around here. Now you go back like this. Yeah, so see the plateau previously, the one I showed you way back in the 90s and early 2000s, that was back here when, gold was consistently this low. And then it spiked all the way up here, and then it collapsed more down to like 1,000. But now it's been consistently around $2,000 an ounce. So it plateauing out here is actually because we're reaching like physical availability limits. As remember, gold is rare. It's not abundant. It's nowhere near as rare as the platinum group metals or as rare as stuff like germanium, but it is rare. And I'll look at some of those other questions once I go through like another thing here. Oh, yeah, here you go. One of the things we're never going to have an issue with, iron ore, one of the things that essentially makes up the Earth's crust. And if you want to know what iron ore looks like, we can zoom in on any of the mines up here. Iron ore essentially looks like uh, dark red dirt, and sometimes, like in the case of the U.S., if it's mixed in with like certain types of sediment layers, it can look more like a clayish gray. Usually, it looks more like red dirt. Actually, here we'll go to. I'll show you the true like purest kind of iron ore, the real red dirt type. We go to Australia. Those are the uranium mines. Port Hedland, that's where the iron ore gets exported from. So the iron mine should be down around here. That looks like one of them. Or is that a natural formation? That's a natural formation. But yeah, you can tell that there's a lot of iron ore here, hopefully, by the fact that everything is red. Too much natural stuff that looks like iron mines. Where are the iron mines, Australia? Okay, I didn't want to have to do this, but I'll resort to it again. Australia, iron mines. All right. Uh, actually, no. We want something that's been operating for a little bit. Let's try Brockman mine. Oops, no, not B. Control V. Okay, that was not a good choice. That area, it is getting mixed in with stuff that's making it look yellow. Where's the good old classic red ones? Oh, there we go. That looks like somewhere right there. Yeah, that's the good stuff. There you go. See, red dirt, dark red dirt. That's iron ore. Oh, and there's the discoloration that comes actually once you're doing stuff with the tailings of it. But that's your iron ore right there. Some red dirt. And thankfully, though, the biggest supplier in the world is one of the world's most dependable and friendly countries, Australia, supplying about a third, or actually more than a third, close to 1 billion tons per year. And in the U.S., we do have like enough to mine like self-sufficiently if we actually intended on it, but we have been tending to like imports more down from Canada and stuff up from Brazil just because it's kind of cheap to do so. Just like how we do have bauxite, uh, low quality bauxite down in the upper portion of the southeastern U.S., but it's a lot cheaper to import high quality bauxite from Brazil and Jamaica. But yeah, got the biggest outputters being Australia, Brazil, China, but China consumes all of it itself. Then India, and no one else really goes above 100 million tons. And yeah, actually, iron ore overshot global demands and caught over 3 billion tons per year, and then crashed because of the sheer lack of demand and low prices, especially post 2008 crisis, and it has a lot of like the built up oversupply from before has been carrying stuff over, despite demands increasing like a bit beyond what the global output level currently is. So that is still like buffering things a bit. But when that like buffer runs out, there's not going to be like some huge, world collapsing supply issue because there's plenty of iron ore left. That was just a we were going up like way too fast because primarily this was during the time when like China was super rising and super expanding with their construction boom, and so production overshot everything, and the slowdown globally from the financial crisis back here eventually caught up with stuff. Look at chat like a responsible streamer. Yeah, that is also an issue with helium, that it is the lightest thing, so it drifts right to the top of the atmosphere. It doesn't necessarily like leave, but it does go straight to the top layer and eventually will bleed off. But it's irrelevant. The large amount that is like staying there is effectively irrelevant because we have no uh not even economical, but like resource efficient way to like recover that. And because there's two different things. Economics is largely the governing material because to actually get down to the resource efficiency level, you'd have to go down pretty far in a lot of cases. So usually it's the price of things that will restrict stuff or dictate stuff like what gets mined. But there is also, in some cases, like trying to recover helium from the upper atmosphere with, I don't know, some weird blimp helium scoop tether tentacle thing or whatever. There is actual resource efficiency constraints. Like if take mining for example, obviously mining equipment uses various metals like steels, nickel alloys, and things. Some of the most easiest examples would probably be like the precious metals, because those you'd be getting a lot less out of a mine than you would a mine with like iron ore. If the equipment and all the infrastructure and stuff that is needed for the mine would itself use more of the material being extracted from the mine than is going to be extracted from the mine, obviously the mine is then pointless. Now the doing the whole, I don't know, upper atmosphere weird blimp helium scoop tentacle tether would use up way more resources per helium gained than, getting helium out from underground reservoirs, even if they are continuously, eventually we get to the point where they're continuously less and less volumetric, less and less abundant types of reservoirs. Lead. China is the world's biggest producer of lead, also the biggest consumer of it, but they do export a lot of that. And then the next non-China, truly like global market supplier is Australia. And then you have us, the US, and then Mexico, Peru, Russia, although Russia is starting to drop because they're shelving some of the lead production, just like with the antimony production. Actually, let's see. What were their numbers for 2021? Lead. Oh, actually, they were E, although they're labeled with an E, which E means no definable data, but estimate. E, E estimated, or effectively not available. So, uh, carrying over assumed numbers. All right, so assuming that is correct, then, because I guess they're probably just copying and pasting stuff. That is a marginal drop, not as much as the antimony one, but still a drop. Lead on the global scale peaked in 2013 at about 5.5 million tons per year, and it's been on the decline, but is shallowing out for the time being at a bit under 4.5. I think it's at about 4.3 million tons per year right now, because lead price spikes be coming about from various deficits over the course of time or since the peak did help further additional mining operations. So that is holding for the moment, but that is going to downturn soon and keep going unless lead prices actually like correct themselves back up to something closer to what they should be, which is we get over here, oh, down here. No, have to go all the way down here. There we go. So lead is a bit above $2,000 per ton, or about $2 per kilogram. In reality, at the moment, it really should be over three, but the market constantly isn't really doing what it should. But some price surges here and the constant jump upwards have, and the sheer difference, obviously, between this and back then, have helped to make sure this didn't go like steeply down, but it is still going to be heading on its way. Lime, lithium. Australia remains the largest producer, although others are coming upwards. Chile is up to half of Australia's capacity, but however, Chile has a problem that I already mentioned, the whole environmental protesters thing, because they have been off and on shutting down or getting Chile's lithium mine shut down. And Chile's primary lithium brine extraction place is responsible for about 10% of the entire global supply. So this is a bit more pressing than the Panama 1% of global supply copper mine issue. So that is going to be a bit of a problem going forward. But then, apart from them, you also have China, but China kind of consumes all of their own output like they do with everything. Brazil's trying to step up. Argentina does have the capacity to go pretty high, but they've been going really slowly about it. And Zimbabwe has some, but Zimbabwe is also Zimbabwe and not known to be the most functional place. So this is what lithium looks like. Got up here, started stalling for a bit, which is uh, what, and then climbed back up here. Meanwhile, demand went up to about here at the same time, which is what led us to see lithium prices jump from $20 per kilogram up to about 85 before, from the oversurge here, crashing back down to now around 15 or $16 per kilogram, and also partially as well because I will fetch those articles or those headlines probably for the next regular stream. EV sales worldwide have been starting to taper off. It turns out they were not sweeping the market and taking over the whole global auto industry like everybody thought they were going to. And Elon Musk, famous, famous smooth-brained Joe Rogan podcaster dude, he even like said that he would just like freely arbitrarily, drop the prices of his Teslas by insert number of thousands here to try to boost sales, and it didn't work. So lithium has now actually overshot demand for the moment, assuming these trends with the EVs continue as well, and has hit 180,000 tons per year. Meanwhile, demand is kind of leveling out around like 140 or 150. So we'll see how that situation develops. Anybody here? Uh, Solder was never the primary source of lead demand. Lead acid batteries, aka the batteries of ground vehicles, it has always been the predominant source of lead demand. This is lead. Yes, blah blah. Yeah, see, still here. Also for the MCS is cool because you can get this kind of stuff, which you will not get if you actually search on Google. Google will just give you random chat GTP nonsense. But the lead acid batteries are about 92% of at least US lead consumption, but that is also effectively global consumption as well. The ratio is about the same. And global automobile manufacturing is has stalled out. It has leveled at about 83 million vehicles per year. Now, again, this is automobiles. This is just personal cars I'm referring to. I'm not referring, this does not include trucks, commercial vehicles, construction equipment, and all kinds of other stuff. We're just referring to cars. Has leveled out at like, I think 82 or 83 million per year. And uh, it was up to, I think, 7 million like last year were EVs. So, in terms of at least cars, yes, the portion that were regular cars and thus having lead acid batteries in them did marginally kind of decrease, but not enough to like be countering the lead supply decrease, and also the amount of like trucks and freight vehicles and construction equipment and stuff that is still increasing because there are, a lot of populous rising nations and regions of the world that are still rising and want to economically rise as opposed to wanting to meet some green European moral like standards before they're permitted to economically rise. Magnesium, manganese. Manganese, like I said, is predominantly consumed for steel. It is one of the key ingredients of any types of steel. Usually has like about 1% of manganese blended into it. And you got your primary suppliers, which unfortunately includes South Africa. That's going to be an issue. Gabon has been climbing upwards and is now up to fluctuating around like 4.5 or a bit above 4.5 actually million tons per year. Australia is pretty consistent, 3 million tons per year. And the only others that come up to high numbers are Ghana, or high enough numbers are Ghana and India, plus China, of course, but China uses all of its own supply, like always. And manganese is leveling out kind of for the same reason, with aluminum, because demand is getting plateaued predominantly right now because China has hit its economic wall, both because of demographics, because of overextension, because everyone has, seen through the whole real estate construction boom Ponzi scheme thing, basically all of it happening at once, and because everyone's bailing out because they know China's about to invade Taiwan. Uh, most likely next year. Potentially, they might do it this year, though, to get like a surprise jump on it. But manganese has peaked out demand driven wise. It's peaked and plateaued for the moment at about 20 million tons. It's not really a supply issue. However, it's not effectively infinite like iron and aluminum are. We could run through manganese if we were like trying hard enough. However, we are not and will not be trying hard enough. Nickel. The nickel supply worries have thankfully, praise God, been abated for the time being because of Indonesia coming to the world's rescue, just jumping up there, super punching its way up to half of the global supply, now pumping out 1.8 million tons per year. Nickel, as I previously said, is critical for steel. Also, however, it is very critical and growing in demand and usage for EV batteries. What's the percentage up to? All right, the last time I was able to check, it was up to 7%. I don't see percentage here. Okay, did they update those numbers? Did they update those numbers? Statista is fake news. That's from 2021, 2021, 2022. Nickel Institute. You guys are usually reliable. Did you do a data update? Please tell me you did something at least from last year. All right, while we're waiting for them to load, the primary suppliers globally are Indonesia supplying half the world's supply. And then falling in behind them, you have the Philippines, along with Russia. And ooh, that is not good. I really thought nickel would be one of the ones Russia would try to hold on to, not one of the ones it would shelve. But then again, it has now been 2 years of cutoff, so they might be running into like, full blown actual issues with spare parts and equipment supply, so they might not entirely have a choice anymore. But that's a 10% drop on their end. And then New Caledonia, which needs to be independent, and Spain needs to, or sorry, France needs to stop sending a bunch of French people there to throw the vote. Canada has been pumping up to try to increase global supply security. So nickel globally has done this. So it was stuck for a while demand was constantly going up. And then, prices spiked and came down, spiked and came down, which drove it to now finally do the Indonesia boom and is up over 3.5 million tons per year. Apart from the EV batteries and steel being the primary demand and use, still it is also needed in nickel superalloys, which are critical for aircraft engines, power plant turbines, and a lot of other stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Properties, availability, resources, mining and production. Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, this is definitely 2023 data. So steel production, 65%. EV batteries now up to 17% of nickel's demand. And then you have the nickel superalloys, nickel plating, and various other assorted stuff that makes up the rest of it. So that was a huge jump. Niobium. Now, this one is actually like a supply issue where it could become one. Brazil is thankfully the largest global supplier of it, and Brazil is both friendly and reliable. Second up being Canada, and after them, effectively no one, because it is so hard to find niobium. I mean, it does it does occur in some places, but effectively it's only in Brazil and Canada if you're talking about like being realistic with it. So niobium has really gradually crept its way upwards, and it is a minority component additive for nickel superalloys and different types of steel. It is critically necessary for super high strength steels, like the steel that's used in the construction of tall buildings, of construction equipment itself, that's used in aircraft, that's used in like super critical load bearing infrastructure like bridges. Perlite. Phosphate rock might be seeing some issues soon, especially price wise. Phosphate rock initially overshot global demand a bit. However, this whole wavering thing down here is now below global demand, which is more around this level. So it did overshoot, going like this supply wise up to a peak, whereas global demand did more like this. But, now we're kind of under demand and down there 220 million tons per year for 2023. So not in a good place. So we're probably going to be seeing some heavy price spiking with that, and also some, agricultural issues coming about because of that. Uh, Russia's remained the same. U.S. remained relatively the same. China having a bit of a drop, and Morocco actually went down. That's interesting. But yeah, the in term Morocco has the most in terms of how much it has. In terms of output, China has the largest amount, but they basically use all of their own output. And then second in comes Morocco, and then behind them is us, the US, because we actually have more than we initially thought we did. And then you have a few minor producers down under that. Some others come up a bit of a decent way, like Russia and Jordan, but then apart from them, not really impressive. Anything coming out of anybody else. Check chat. It's mostly stainless steel alloys now. No, what is? Here we go. The platinum group metals, the ones whose prices are not behaving as they should, because we are in an actual supply deficit issue with these. So, uh, palladium and platinum, the two primary platinum group metals, are needed for catalytic converters and for industrial detoxifier things for emissions, and are needed for electronics, are needed for digital thermometers. They are needed. They're needed for some types of electric resistance, like tracking systems, to for machines to be able to actually manage micro fluctuations in electricity flow amounts. They're needed for catalysts for all kinds of chemical reactions, and they are an issue to say the least. You can see South Africa's output, just like with everything else, beginning to fall constantly each year because South Africa is down spiraling. But we have some in the US and Canada. Russia also is one of the main other global places. South Africa is the main one, which is a problem. Zimbabwe is trying to pick up some slack, but Zimbabwe is also a problem, or at least it could be. Platinum and palladium have been plateaued supply wise for 20 years. Actually, platinum has been going down in supply. So, this is an issue, and it's going to become more of an issue, especially as more and more countries are demanding higher emissions, reduction standards, which means the use of more emissions reduction things, which basically just means instead of using 3 grams of platinum and palladium, using 7. Where's palladium? So these prices up here, those would be okay to foster continued stuff. This whole thing, but what is this? What is this? No, we can't have that. No, we can't have this either. Like, what is that? This ain't gonna work. Okay, so uh yeah, the whole pricing thing with them was not really behaving as it should. This that was good. That was a good upward punch, but now it fell apart. So bad. That is very bad. Platinum, what are you doing, Platinum? Come on. What are you doing? 1300, that's all you can muster up. And this for this that long, that's it. That's all you got. That was good. That was good. Okay, that was pretty good. But you should have kept that. But you didn't, did you? Okay, so that's going to be a real issue really, really soon. Especially if South Africa's, power grid does the whole actual death blackout thing. Potash, potatoes. Oh, oh, K2O actually was like the thing for it. Okay, that's where well, it's K2O, not KO2. I put KO2. But anyways, this is potash. It's supposed to be potash, but I said it wrong for years, and since it irritated people, I decided I'm going to keep saying it wrong. So cringe and cry harder. Potash is a potassium mineral salt that we mine up and use as one of our 3 critical fertilizers. And it was going up with global agricultural demand until here's an issue. So what happened in 2022, I wonder? Oh, yeah, there was Vladimir Putin's smooth-brained moment. So two of the primary suppliers were Russia and Belarus, who have gone down a bit since then. Actually, what was their 2021 level? Their potash. Oh yeah, that was a half drop. Yeah, that was not that great. So that did come from a mixture of countries turning away to other sources, but also uh, that is partially from some of the mining equipment cutoff stuff, as they're uh, one of the things they're choosing to cut down on to save equipment for more money making stuff is potash, as it does make money, but it doesn't make as much money as like platinum and gold does. Now, thankfully for us, Canada exists and has way more than they do, and can actually expand their capacity, but that's going to take a while. They their stuff is up here along the border of Saskatchewan and North Dakota, and some in Manitoba, I believe. A lot of it is this right here, all this open stuff. Oh, no, that's the coal fields. Okay, where's the potash? Is it over? Was it over here instead? should be able to see them because usually they have bright pink or red like tailing pools. Where are they? Or were they further up from the border than I thought they were? Okay. All right, we're doing this again since I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff. Potash, mines, Canada. Okay, so it is Saskatchewan, near Alberta, west of Saskatoon, down to the southeast corner. Okay, so over here, unless unless you guys are screwing around and you just named a set of potash mines coal fields for some reason, because those definitely don't look like coal mines there, Canada. I mean, that does, but okay. Where's Saskatoon? Saskatoon. That's Regina. Where's Saskatoon? Zoom out further. I want to find them. Is that some of them? Or is that some of them? Okay, that's a gray blob. There we go. There, you can see it. You can see some of the pink. Or at least it initially looked pink. I don't know why it's turning white now. But yeah, Canada is working on expansions to their capacity, specifically in the wake of the Russia stuff. But that's going to take until I think like 2026 or 2027. And they should jump up from 14 to 13 up to about 20. So that is a temporary down at the moment that can be corrected because potash, like worldwide availability, is not really an issue in terms of like how much there actually is, but specific countries are issues. I mean, there also is a huge amount under northern Pakistan. However, Pakistan kind of has issues, you know, both at the moment and just in general, Pakistan has issues. So, mining companies have wanted to, start working with that stuff in Pakistan for a while, but it just hasn't really panned out for them. Rare earths, consisting of all kinds of things from neodymium and praseodymium to dysprosium, herbium, and all kinds of other things, are critical things needed for computer screens, solid state electronics, uh, different types of signals receivers, electric motors, the magnets inside of a lot of electric motors as well, and wind turbines is one of the big demand sources. And since, wind and solar is like the only thing that we're apparently interested in globally, that's going to be a big deal. Now, thankfully, we have gotten to a point where China is no longer supplying 90% of the world's rare earths. That supply has diversified. The US is a big outputter now, along with Australia, who will be kicking it up a notch. Myanmar was for a moment, however, that output is going to collapse soon because the junta is going to fall apart. Then you have various others who contribute some degree, and you have others who are going to be coming online soon, like Namibia will soon be on this list, that will be jumping into being with a quite decent amount. And Greenland should be starting up, I think, next year or 2026. I'm not positive. But so thankfully, we've averted disaster for the moment. But this is like a late rescue type deal because once we hit like the later 2000s, global demand was doing this and is technically beyond still what's rare earth output is at the moment. That's why rare earth prices are still, quite a ways above what they were historically, but they're not hitting like the all-time highs like they were back in the early 2010s. We'll see that time again soon enough, don't worry, but we're not there at the moment. Silver is an issue. Like quite literally, this is an actual issue. Silver peaked in 2014 globally at around 900 million ounces mined and dropped all the way down here, and it has stalled for the time being around like this, but it's going to turn down and keep going down if silver does not get a hold of itself and the market does not actually start acting like we are in the silver supply deficit that we are. See, I mean this is better than this, but it's not enough to spur mining recovery. This we need to be up in the 30s perpetually for the at least immediate future before then going higher. So this is going to hold out for a moment, but then it's going to drop unless we get huge silver price spikes soon. And the primary source of all this demand, of all the new demand, is because of our obsession with solar panels. So let me show you here. Yeah, here. So you can track, it goes back to 2014 at the moment. Million ounces per year used for solar panels. We have gone from just under 50 all the way up to 161 last year, 2023, million ounces used for solar panels. That is more than a threefold increase. And initially, it had a buffer from the death of traditional photography, which used silver in its developing chemicals, but that has stalled down just around 25. Silver is, used at a pretty consistent 50 million ounces per year in soldering alloys. And then you have also the regular electronics use and the other industrial uses, which you can see is also going up because silver is used for a lot of other things as well. And jewelry has remained relatively consistent around 200 million. And actual silverware, like silver, like, forks and knives made out of silver for rich people. Just so you know, your forks and your knives in your house, even though you call them silverware, I hope you did not actually think they're silver because they're just steel. They're literally just steel. Go take a magnet, hold it up to your forks and knives, they'll stick to it. Or it will stick to the magnet because it's steel, it's not silver. But silverware, as in like actual silverware is still made. It's just only for rich people. So, yeah, that is an issue. And if you look at a lot of countries, like lists of their new power generation capacity they're going to add to their grids, it literally is like just solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, bobbleheads, wind turbines, solar panels, bobbleheads. I mean batteries. So this is a problem, and also a problem for our power grids. Like I will make an episode soon that will just be titled "The U.S. Power Grid is Screwed," because all the like listed new additions that we have for the next 8 years are just solar panels and batteries. So we're just brain dead at this point. Now, supposedly, after that after one of the few non-smooth brain things that Biden did was finally not end the solar panel and wind turbine subsidies that effectively make them like dirt cheap and uh, make it like so nothing can compete with them artificially. Instead of ending those, he did at least apply the same like zero sum game subsidy levels to geothermal. So thankfully now various power companies that wanted to set up geothermal stuff across a number of places have actually said now they're finally going to actually start going forward with it because now it's although artificially it's beyond cost effective to do so. So hopefully we're going to start throwing some geothermal in there instead. And once all the hearings and stuff in Congress are done on it, supposedly we might be going forward with some new nuclear plants. That would be nice. Uh, the state that I'm stuck living in at the moment, South Carolina, was really, really stupid. They were building a new nuclear plant a number of years back. However, it got canceled because the state government, instead of being intelligent, was vindictive. So they'd spent, say, like 4 billion working on building the plant, and it would cost another 2 billion or whatever to finish it. But instead, they wanted to like feed or satiate the populace's vindictive feelings and demolish it instead. So they got rid of it, which also costed $2 billion. The two same amount it would have cost to finish it, and it would have provided 4 gigawatts of constant base load. But no, we got rid of that, and instead we built nothing. And instead, we have a number of power plants, one here, and one over here that are all set to be retired in the next 10 years, of which there is no replacement plan for. And demolishing those will cost 1 billion each, so that's another 3 billion. And then replacing them with something, if the state even decides to do so, will then cost billions more instead of just originally paying the 2 billion to finish that nuclear plant, which would have negated all of this issue. So yeah, I don't like being stuck living in this place. That this place is uh the people in this place are not intelligent. So I I would love to be back up home in Alaska where we do coal and geothermal and some hydro. And we're going to be doing some more geothermal soon. Actually, work just started on that. But there is a nuclear plant up here that was about to be like commissioned. It was about to start work on it. However, it was paused because of unfavorable market conditions. But it was not canceled. It was not like thrown off the books. So that could be resumed after the congressional hearing stuff. So I would really hope that will be the case. Uh, it would only be an additional 2 gigawatts, but that would still be nice. And then of other ones that already exist, at least that were already on the books but are just paused, there was one in, I believe, Tennessee, and one in, I think, Idaho, and one in Indiana. They were put on pause for like the last 5 to 10 years. The other ones were all just like actually thrown off, but new ones could be like commissioned as they are about to be in the UK, France, and Sweden, because France has always been smart for the most part. Oh, and Poland, because Poland already did commission a 6 gigawatt nuclear reactor or nuclear power plant composed of multiple reactors. Because those four have decided to be smart about the future, as opposed to Deutschland, who wants to just obsess over solar panels. So I'm hoping that we go the route of commissioning new nuclear plants. That would be preferable. But I cannot see anything being guaranteed. Uh, let's see. RH, especially RH rhenium or rhodium. R RH. Okay, next to PD and PD. Okay, so RH is rhodium. I'm not used to dealing with rhodium, so I don't know its elemental symbol. I know a lot of them, but not all of them. W is tungsten though, because its actual name is wolfram. Tungsten is the best. Helium is the second best. Yeah, there is a thumb on the scale. Because solar is like people show graphs and charts and brag about how cheap solar is, but it is because it is so heavily subsidized by every government, which is like not even an economic thing. It's literally just like a public like motion thing to like gain green points with the voters in whatever country you're in the government of. But solar panels require silver. It's not an optional thing. They require silver and they require tin and they require gallium. Now, other materials are optional, like some solar panels use tellurium, which is very rare, or germanium, which is even more rare. Those are the efficient solar panels, the ones that get up to like 30 or 35% of the sunlight to convert into electricity. So when people also try to argue that you're underestimating solar, it's so efficient now. No, it's not, because most of these solar power stations around the world are being built with basic panels that are getting around like 20% of the sunlight to convert into electricity, because they would not be getting built if they were being built with like tellurium and germanium incorporated solar panels, because even the subsidies would not like pay out for that much. Let me go up here. Oh yeah, tellurium. Tellurium, a lot of it gets refined by China. Most of it is, however, mined in the US, Chile, and Peru from accompanying copper mines. A huge chunk of it on the US's end actually is mined back up home in Alaska. It comes out of not uh, not Fort Knox mine, which this is my hometown where I belong and need to get back up to Fairbanks. This big hole in the ground up here is Fort Knox. That's a gold and silver mine back up home. However, the copper or zinc, rather, technically, because it also accompanies zinc, the zinc mine where the tellurium in the US is coming out of is up here, Red Dog. It is actually the Red Dog up home in Alaska is the largest dedicated zinc mine in the world. As in, it's the largest mine in the world where zinc is the specific dominant ore, or is the like dominant target of the mine. But yeah, there's Red Dog Mine back up home, my beloved state. Apart from having the best infrastructure and the best flag and the best climate and the best everything, is also a state that actually has money, because don't uh, we don't tax our people. We tax the oil and gas industry and the mining industry. And despite uh, what's more like heavily right leaning, more libertarian types in Congress might try to convince you, high tax rates don't actually really dissuade the energy and mining industry. It makes them act like it's going to dissuade them, and it makes them complain to you a lot and attempt to bribe you into giving them lesser rates, However, if you just stick to it like we did when we started setting everything up in the 70s and make it clear you're not actually going to budge, they just give up and go about their business anyways and just pay the tax rates. So that's how we make our state revenue back up home in Alaska. It's about a 35% tax on the oil, and I think like 5 or 6% on the mining revenue, and then no taxes on the people, not on income, and no sales taxes either. But the oil and gas and mining revenue is enough that we have, actual functioning public transit. So I never owned a car, still don't, even though I live down here now. I've been stuck down here since 2020. That's one of my secrets to how I lived off of only 8 grand a year back when I made 8 grand a year. But we have, functional roads and infrastructure, power system that never fails us. We have free district heating. We have free water supply. The public transit I already mentioned. Semi-free healthcare, state sponsored, not state as in the government or the nation, but state as in the state of Alaska. Semi-free options, like you can go to places that are effectively covered by the state and will do stuff for free. Like my doctor's visits, like appointments and stuff that I went to back up home, those were free. Small like procedures that I had to have done, those were free. Uh, Getting my blood drawn, the couple times I had to do that, I did have to pay, but it was dirt cheap. And the only thing I had to like pay for was when the 2 times I had to get my ear sliced open for an operation, and even those times it was only like $700. Whereas like down here in the regular US, like here in South Carolina, for example, it would be like, thousands of bucks for that. So yeah, uh, basically the main takeaway here, like from every other stream, is Alaska is just the best. Un Unadulterated Alaska supremacy in this channel or on this channel. Tin is actually an issue, especially as its demand grows, predominantly now from solar panels, as I aforementioned. Uh, tin supply has plateaued worldwide for the last like 2 decades or so. Primary suppliers being Myanmar, which is a problem, China, who consumes their own supply, so they never really count, Indonesia, who just cut the world off from a bunch of it because they're doing the thing they did with nickel, where they're cutting us off until they finish building smelteries and refineries because they don't want to export the ore, they want to export the refined product, which is fine. I support them doing that for themselves to earn more money. But the whole cutting the whole world off while you build the refineries thing is really dumb and antagonistic. So that part, no, and Peru. So tin is an issue and is going to become more of an issue as time goes on. As oh yeah, I forgot. Also have that dock. I don't want to go all the way into the dock at the moment. I want to. Uh oh, I do have them. The reserves. Oh man, I didn't alphabetize them. Lead, gold, chromium, antimony, tin. Yeah, so tin reserves, like known tin reserves in deposits in the ground, even with the increase in prices over the years, it has still been going down. Like we are actually visibly depleting the world of tin. So tin is going to become an issue. And I need to speed up because I initially promised Josh this would be a short stream so that he could do his stream later. Vanadium, Wollastonite, not a supply issue. I just like the name of it. and zinc has plateaued much earlier than we might have thought. And actually, it might have even wholly peaked in 2016. So, this has been zinc production since 2012. It's effectively been flat for a decade. Despite demand still creeping up, it's not too much higher. Demand is like about right here. So, it's not as big of a gap as some of the others. But zinc is becoming a bit of an issue. And prices are not responding accordingly just yet because predominantly because there is now a demand contraction from China and their whole real estate construction Ponzi scheme thing starting to implode. But zinc mine production, China is also the biggest miner, but they consume it all. Obviously, Australia is one of the next up ones behind Peru. Actually, it used to be Australia. Peru has overtaken them though as the biggest real miner, as in one that actually exports everything to the world at large. Then you got Mexico and us, the US, as predominant suppliers as well. And India consumes basically everything they mine up. Kazakhstan does have the capacity to mine more. And just like with their chromium, they are working on that because they are eager to gain the economic windfall from filling in the gap that South Africa is creating by via its death spiral. So Kazakhstan can definitely pick up some slack, but we're gonna really need to punch it to you know at least even hold it more like this instead of letting it slowly start to worm its way downwards. And that's going to be it for the more in depth stream coverage of the MCS 2024. I will do an actual episode, like an actual shorter video where I just basically go through the numbers and slideshow through the graphs really quick for people who only watch the videos and for people who want to watch something more condensed. But uh, blah, blah. Yes, actually, in investing in silver is actually something I highly recommend, especially while it's still this low. I did that video. I did one video like that way back in I think 2019 when it was only like $14 an ounce. And just recently, last year at the start of the year, I think I did one when it suddenly dropped down to $18 for no reason. I did that video that I literally titled "You Might Never See Silver This Low Again." Silver is like the one to go in on, uh, but others that you are probably also going to see spikes of are the platinum group metals because this is not a viable situation here. And nickel you'll have to back out of for a while, along with lithium for a bit. Ironically enough, zinc. Zinc's not really going to be like a supply jumper, or sorry, price jumper all that much. Not by like a huge factor. Uh, Gold will still be going higher. In fact, actually, in the coming like decade or two, you're probably going to see times where it jumps up to, I don't know, something like 5 grand an ounce. But gold is less accessible because it's already 2 grand an ounce. Uh, Copper, though, yeah, copper is also going to be a thing, and copper is also still like refusing to be where it should be. Like at the moment, it should to keep everything balanced, it should be up between $4.50 and $5 and should be in the process over this decade of transitioning to constantly being in the upper single digits. But the market is still being mentally dense as humans collectively are. and so it's still hovering like below $4. But there are going to be points in time in the coming like near enough future where you're going to see copper go decently high comparatively, like in the 2030s. Probably you're going to see it punch up through like the double digits a few times. Whereas silver, uh, the highest silver has ever gone up to this point was like $49 an ounce. Yeah, $49. Adjusted for inflation, that would be around like 65 or 70. Silver is going to be having some triple digit spikes once it hits the wall because this is literally a situation of like the market in quotation marks, just like keeping the pedal on the gas of normalcy, even with a brick wall, like, you know, 2 feet, 2 feet away on this racetrack. And so that has it, the longer you drag this out for, the more you cause something like this abrupt upward jump like that. Because if you ignore the reality of a situation until the literal last possible second, then you end up just having a wall jump. But yeah, that's probably going to have to be it for this one. About uh, there there's not infinite demand and there's effectively infinite supply. There is a constraint in terms of phosphate rock. That there is a constraint on how fast we can dig it up, but a lot of that has to do with like Morocco's incompetency and also with and also now with like Russia and Ukraine and other stuff as well. And we might see issues from Jordan because of stuff in the Middle East. But I'll stop using shorthands, blah blah. Silver right now, I mean, you can call this like subjective, and it is, but I consistently say at the particular moment, silver honestly should not be below $30 an ounce. It should be like in the upper 30s or at least like close to 40. But let's be okay, screwed. Okay, I'm caught up on everything. So this is where I'm probably gonna have to call this one off. I'll wait like around another minute for any questions or comments or super chats or anything. But then I'm going to have to get off because I've overrun this by an hour, and I owe it to Josh to leave him space to do his stream, like I said I was going to, but have failed to do. Shut that down. Chug some water, the water I should have been drinking this entire time. Yeah, I'll keep going. Actually, I have to put these in the Google Doc with the mining rates. Uh, I've seen you guys before, so you guys are like frequent people. So I'm assuming you guys already know. Come on, YouTube, don't do this to me. Thank you. There we go. So, but if anyone new is watching who doesn't know, you go down here, go to the description of each video, and there's a whole bunch of Google Doc links with stuff that I compile and put together. And I was speaking about this one, the one that has all of the graphs of production, mine production levels for the different minerals. I'm going to go through tonight, obviously, and switch these over to the new ones. Since these, you see, they stop at 2022 because those are the old ones from last year. So I'll go through tonight and I'll update this like I promised I would. And also, I will. Uh, where is it? Is it this one? No, that's fiction stuff. Oops, I accidentally went out. Uh, out here. Oh, wait. It's not untitled anymore. At least I don't think. I think I actually titled it. Did I? Persian Gulf Reserves. No, I guess I didn't. Is it this one? No, that's a blank document. Okay. Is it this one? There we go. Okay. I'm gonna here. I'll fix this problem. Long term. There we go. So this is the lawn essay I promised that I was working on, and I'm just proving again I am working on it about all the different factors and things that initially caused and built on each other and played off each other and sometimes hindered each other of the gradual fertility rate slash demographic downturn that we have been undergoing over the course of the last 2 centuries in terms of European and Western nations who began the stuff. The same trends and everything, the same variables and stuff, all came into effect for the more recently rising nations. They just instead of 2 centuries played out over the course of like only 5 decades. Like in the case of South Korea going from effectively an 1800s agrarian society in the at the time of the Korean War up to the giant peninsular cyberpunk megacity that South Korea is today. And many like African and Southeast Asian nations are doing the same thing right now, going through like literally all of the same stuff, but just doing it in like 60 years instead of 200. So I am working on that essay. It's probably going to be like 10, maybe 11 pages. Right now, I'm almost done with the seventh page. So that is coming. But that's the end of this one. So thank you, everybody. And I will see you all around next time.